Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome along to this webinar today from TextHelp. TextHelp, for those of you who don't know, is a company that's been around now for 25 years, and we are very, very passionate about helping people to supersede whichever barriers they may be facing when it comes to accessing information. So we're talking accessibility, inclusion, literacy, and that is what we're all about. And one of the things that we like to talk about a lot is that we want to help people understand and be understood. So in terms of your students, we want to help them with the information that's presented to them, that they're able to understand it. And we also want to help them express themselves and put out the information that they have in their heads. So that's what we're all about, and we're about reaching every learner. So there is no student left in the back of the classroom who doesn't have access to the tools that they need to support them on their journey. So with all that being said, my name is Alison, and I am the group school specialist on the education team here at TextHelp. So that's why I'm speaking to you today. You're all part of a local education authority. You're all working in schools in your local area. So therefore, that falls into my remit. I just want to take a little moment just to get my email address there if you don't have it already, a.woodrow@texthelp.com. And please also, if you're active on Twitter, follow me there for more information. So today, as you know, we are here to talk about exams and access arrangements, and particularly with the emphasis on you as local education authorities and how you're supporting the schools that you are working with. But before we start, we're just going to look at a couple of stats that I think might be interesting in sort of setting the scene. So 461,000 pupils essentially in all UK school sectors qualify for additional access arrangements. Of those, 151,000 require a reader or a scribe. And when you distill that right down, this number is quite shocking. 40 in each school require a reader or a scribe. So that's a lot. That is a lot of administration for your exams team. It's a lot of work. It's a lot to support 40 students, give or take, in a really appropriate and consistent way as they approach their exams. And what we've noticed over the last few years is there has been a bit of a shift, probably partly accelerated with COVID. There's been a bit of a shift towards using technology instead of human readers and scribes. So this is taken from the latest JCQ guidelines. It says SENCOs may wish to consider the use of technology to a much greater extent instead of readers and scribes. Computer readers, examination pens, speech recognition technology, and word processors not only allow candidates to work independently, but are also a better preparation for further and higher education and the world of employment. And so that's what I'm going to be talking to you about today. But actually quite recently, there's been another little addition around the whole area of STEM subjects. So now the JCQ are also saying that a computer reader may decode symbols and unit abbreviations in maths and science examinations for candidates who require this arrangement in order to access the assessment and where it reflects the candidate's current and normal way of working. So these are all the things I'm going to be looking at with you today. It's how we're helping the students access their exams, and how are we doing that in a way that reflects their normal way of working. So when they come into an examination, they're not faced with a totally new situation. They're not faced with a totally new person or a totally new piece of equipment that they've never used before or have very minimal use before. They're coming in feeling comfortable and confident in the equipment that they have at their disposal and the tools they have at their disposal to allow them to carry out their exam. So what I'm going to tell you about today is what TextHelp has to offer in this area. So when you're in your schools and you're talking to your SENCOs, your exams officers, or the staff about their exams and their access arrangements, that you know that this is what's available from TextHelp. So we've got three main areas to look at. We've got Read&Write, our product Read&Write, which can be used as a digital exam reader. Okay, I'm going to go into this in more detail in a moment. So this is just an overview. Now, one thing to note about the exam reader, and again, I'll explain this in a little moment, But the extra bonus of this is that it is also allowed in some exams where a human reader is not permitted. So it replaces a human reader in most exams, but there are also some occasions where it will be allowed when a human reader wouldn't have even been allowed. So it's a really, really good one to look out for. Then also in terms of read and write, using speech recognition as a scribe. So instead of your human scribe. So read and write used as a scribe and as a reader. It's secure, accurate, approved. It meets the JCQ guidelines. It's easy to set up. It's easy to manage, okay, which cannot be said for trying to manage teams of human readers and scribes. For the speech input, the dictation function, it doesn't require any training. It's really accurate, and it works in a wide range of writing tools. And also, again, that sort of most important thing that I keep coming back to, read and write can be used all year as a normal way of working for your students. So when they come into the exam, it's not an unusual thing for them. So we've got human reader, or a computer reader, computer scribe, and now we've also got a computer reader for maths, and this is really new. This has pretty much just happened. So that our maths and STEM tool, Equatio can be used as a computer reader for maths in a maths exam. Okay, again, simple to administer. It's a screenshot reader. I'm going to show it to you in a little while. With a natural speech playback, and there's controls there. You can control the speed, control the voice, etc. It supports all levels of maths, numbers, symbols, units, and notation. Again, JCQ approved, and again, considered the normal way of working. So what we're saying is TextHelp can provide you with this complete and dedicated exam mode. It's fully controllable, and it's a very easy admin to lock it down to use only the approved features for each pupil. Okay, and I'm going to show you some of this in a little minute. But just before I do, let's have a think about some of the challenges that schools and centres are experiencing when it comes to exams. So first of all, we're back to this normal way of working. Student exams can be so stressful for any student under the best of circumstances. But ask a student to come into a room with perhaps an unfamiliar person, unfamiliar equipment, it's going to be so much more stressful. If a student is using tools, the tools of Read and Write, the tools of Equatio all year long, they come into an exam confident and happy that they can use what's in front of them. Okay, so that leads me on to point 2, where we're building their confidence, we're building their independence. We want our students to be independent learners and confident learners. And what can happen with perhaps a human reader is that if a student hasn't quite understood a word, there's a limited number of times that they will ask for that word to be repeated. But if they have a computer reader and they can hit play as many times as they want, they will. And that obviously helps them to learn, helps them to be more independent, helps them to be more confident. Another challenge is that there is an increasing number of students with access arrangements, and that's a challenge for the schools and the centres. Where every year they have more access arrangements and possibly more complex access arrangements to deal with. So obviously, if we can streamline the elements of those that are possible to be streamlined, that's so much easier. Trying to administer readers and scribes for up to, and in some cases probably more than 40 students every exam season is a huge job. It's a huge job. So again, we can try and take that away and help out with that a little bit. So we're not just supporting the students, but we're also supporting the staff who are looking after those students. And another challenge is there's a lack of consistency of support. And that comes back to students not having one thing that they can use all of the time and that will really help them in their day-to-day life, in their schoolwork, and on in through to their further higher education, even into the world of work. So with a tool like Read and Write and Equatio, that support will always be there for them in any situation, including exams and assessments. I've already touched on this slightly. The availability of human readers can be a big problem, not just the administration of it, but the availability. Do you have enough? Do you find yourself running out? So that can be a big thing. And the cost of human readers and scribes. So we're coming back to budget. If you've got 40 students with access arrangements, that's a chunk of your budget. So how can we help with that? Student resistance Again, we find that students perhaps struggle with, again, maybe an unfamiliar person and unfamiliar equipment. They like to feel comfortable, and we can't blame them because we all like to feel comfortable. So if we're going into an exam setting, which is already stressful, we at least want to feel comfortable with what is around us. And then just to touch on this, which I mentioned earlier, human readers are not permitted in GCSE English reading exams, but computer readers are. So that's a little added bonus to using a computer reader instead. Okay. So as I've mentioned, we're going to look at two tools. One's called Read and Write. And Read and Write, just to give you a bit of an overview, it's all about supporting reading and writing, comprehension, organisation, study, and obviously what we're going to be looking at today, exams. And then the second tool that we're going to be looking at is Equatio, and that's all about maths. In terms of exams, it's a very simple screenshot reader. So as you can see in the picture, and as I'm about to show you, where there's a little equation or some even fairly, very complicated maths, they simply draw a box around it and it will be read aloud to them accurately and correctly. So it's the total solution. We've got Read and Write and Equatio, and together they provide the complete solution for every student with an access arrangement across all subjects, including maths and science. We're solving a lot of problems with one solution. I'm just going to move into a demo now, but I meant to say at the start, you've got the comment section. So if you've got any comments or any questions as we go through, please don't be afraid to ask them. Of course, also you've still got my email address, so do just message me afterwards if you prefer. But if there's anything you want me to address as we go, please do just pop that into the comments section. So I'm just going to move into demo time now. This is going to be a short demo because this is a half-hour webinar. And I'm just going to show you the basics of what it looks like for your students when they're facing an exam and a little bit about how you administer it. But again, I'm really happy to go into this in more detail here at any time. So please just drop me a message and we'll get that sorted. So what I'm going to do now is just share a different screen for you. So Read and Write and Equatio are the two tools we're looking at today. They will both sit on your desktop. Read and Write is here. I'm just going to click that and it will open up for me. And I'll show you first of all how you get into exam mode from opening Read and Write. Okay, so this is the Read and Write toolbar. For any of you who are unfamiliar with it, you'll see there are loads and loads and loads of tools on here. There are a lot of tools here to help any of your students, maybe particularly around the areas of accessibility, of EAL, SEN, any of those kind of areas. But there are lots of tools in here, really something for everyone. But obviously, going into an exam setting, a student cannot have access to all of these tools. So simply, this is how easy it is to set up. Now, there are two ways of setting it up. The first way is to do it the way I'm about to show you, which is to set it up on an individual device. The second way is to do it centrally and push it out to a lot of computers, which your IT admin would be able to do. I'm not going to show you that way today because I can't, because I don't have a school list of names and pupils and so on. But I can walk through that with you at a later stage if you decide to go down that route. But this is how easy it is to do for just one little device. So you've got your settings menu here, and there's a password protected section in here just for exams. So you or your IT admin or whoever is managing this would have that password. And it's as simple as hitting this little toggle, and you can now see that my toolbar has only got a few tools on it. So just a toggle. While you're in here, you can select the features you want to have on or off. So again, I'll just walk you through the ones that are allowed through JCQ guidelines. So basically any of the speech buttons, play, rewind, fast forward, pause, and stop. They are all allowed. This little one is called Screenshot Reader. Screenshot Reader is used to capture any text that might be stuck inside an image or a map or a diagram. So depending on the subject, if there are lots of diagrams or maps or whatever it might be, and there's text stuck within them, Screenshot Reader is how you capture that text and pull it out. And I'm going to show you that in a little while. There's talk and type, that's the speech input, that's the dictation. Okay, so that's obviously allowed to stay if a student is allowed a scribe on their access arrangement. We've got screen mask, which is a coloured overlay. And again, I'll show you what that looks like. But that is also permissible through the guidelines. Okay, so those are pretty much the ones that you would leave on. PDF reader is to allow the PDF of the exam paper to be accessed. So these are the ones you would leave on, maybe toggling off the talk and type if a student isn't allowed a scribe. Okay, so again, we'll just toggle that on. And this is what it now looks like. Okay, so your student would open up the computer and this is what they've got in front of them. They would then go into PDF reader and find the paper that they want. I'm going to select a maths paper. Okay. So here is their exam paper. The first thing, obviously, to think about is that text-to-speech element. That's the core of Read and Write. It's making text accessible in a way that anyone can access, and very often that will be through text-to-speech, having something read aloud. So again, it's a simple play button, but actually a really nice feature that they can use, which might be a little easier, because in an exam paper, sometimes there are lots of menus and things and that they maybe don't necessarily need to access, or they might want to drop, once they're on down through the paper, they don't want to have to figure out where they need to start the play from. So they've actually got this lovely little feature here called click to speech, and they simply just click where they want to hear it read from, and it will start to read it aloud. And hopefully you'll be able to hear this. Okay. Sometimes with the different microphones and so on that I'm using, it's very hard to hear that. I hope you could, but possibly you couldn't. Just to let you know, what I should have said earlier is that there are some speech settings in here, and the student will still be allowed to access those. So they will still be allowed to access different voices. They can change the speed, they can change the pitch. These are things that they're allowed to do, and they'll find the voice that they're comfortable with. It may be the one that they've been using right throughout their school life, and they're very familiar with it, they're very comfortable with it. So they can do a few little things in the settings, but obviously they can't do anything that is going to give them access where they shouldn't have access. Okay, so
use black ink or black ballpoint pen. Draw.
Okay, I think you might have been able to hear it that time. Okay, so that's how they can simply play and have that read aloud. Okay, now I mentioned to you also the screen mask. So the screen mask is just a lovely little feature for any of your students, perhaps with dyslexia, Mears-Erlens, any of those kind of things where visual distress. But honestly, even if they have issues with focus, or even just if their eyes get tired because they're working on screens more than maybe they would like to be, and I think we can all feel a little bit like that sometimes. So if I click on screen masking now, it's just going to bring up, it's put a bit of a green, hopefully you can see a bit of a green color over the screen. And then as I move my cursor, there's a little window moving down, okay? Now, again, I don't have time today, but there are all sorts of settings here with regards to the colors, with regards to how a student can decide which color works for them, or in fact, find out which color is best for them, with this little window, how much they want it to have it or not, what size they want it to be, loads of settings in there to play about with. So just be aware that that is also available. And again, if it's a student who's using Read and Write on a daily basis, they'll have that already all set up and they'll know what way they like it to be. And then obviously the all-important talk and type. So a student might be working, say, to put their answers in Notepad, for example, and they might have that sitting alongside the paper. They'll click on talk and type. The student will put their answers here. The student will put their answers here. Oh, well, what is it they say? Never work with children, animals, or technology. That was working perfectly about 10 minutes ago. So I don't know, it may be something to do with my microphone again. Talk to me separately, I'll show you how that works individually. It doesn't need to be trained, it picks up even my Northern Irish accent. And as I say, it may just be because my microphone is being used in several different directions here for this. particular webinar. Okay, but I'm happy to show you that one separately. Okay, so that's the sort of read and write side of things. So then what we would do is, since it's a maths paper, we would also want the student to have access to Equatio. And I'll just open it up. So it's a toolbar that opens across the bottom of the page. Okay, and you can see for exams, it has only one tool. Okay, so again, there are loads of tools available within Equatio, some really exciting, really fun stuff, and really useful stuff that work from primary right up to higher ed. But for exams, they are only allowed the screenshot reader, and that's simply to read maths aloud. Okay, so if I click on that now and draw a box, this is what I was explaining to you earlier about a screenshot reader, draw a box.
X equals -13.
Okay, and hopefully you could also hear that. I could certainly hear it here. So it's reading it perfectly. It's not worrying about what the dashes mean, what the funny X is. And obviously that works for far more complicated stuff as well as we move on down through the exam paper. Okay, so those joined together are all of the exams tools that a student can need for their exam. Okay, and then once the exam's over, you simply unlock all of the features again and let them go back to using them in their daily life. All right, so let's just swap my screens back again. Just close this down. Too many things open. There we go. So that was the very quick demo. As I say, I'm really happy to go through any of that again with you personally if you would like to see it. Now, what you may have noticed was that that was all done in Windows. So it doesn't matter if your school's a Google school or if you're using iPads, whatever it might be, you can have access to all of those different features in all of the different platforms. Okay, so that comes with your license. But just to let you know that if you are a Google school, we've got a secure exam environment coming for Chrome and Chromebook. Now that's a big deal. We've been working on it for years, really. So that's very exciting, and that's coming. But in the meantime, that Microsoft one is available to you anyway. So it's not a problem, but we'll keep you posted on that. So just now, if you have any thoughts or questions, if you have anything that interested you there that you would like to see again, just pop it into the comment section. I'll stay around for a few minutes so that I can address those things. But otherwise, do just please get in touch with me afterwards. My email address and so on are there. And if you'd like to see a full demo of either Read and Write or Equatio, not necessarily so focused on exams, but just what all the other tools can do, there's a lot there that we can look at. There's a lot to discuss. So please do just let me know. Drop me a line and let me know, and I'll get that set up with you another half an hour or so to go through those kind of things. Okay, but thank you so much for your time. I hope it's been useful. I hope it's been interesting for you. And I hope to hear from you very soon. Thank you.